Good morning, WorldCom community.
And welcome to another broadcast of WCCS TV, Your News.
First, let's start with the weather.
Alexis, here we go.
For Wednesday, February 25th, there will be a high of 35 degrees and a low of 16 degrees. For Thursday, February 26th, there will be a high of 27 degrees and a low of 11 degrees. For Friday, February 27th, there will be a high of 25 degrees and a low of 9 degrees. I'm Alexis Collier, and I'm your weather girl for today.
ID cards should be worn at all times. If you don't have your ID card, then you can purchase a temporary ID card. The cost is $1. Temporary IDs are only valid for 1 day.
Did you know that 40% of the homeless Americans are under the age of 18? Covenant House in Philadelphia is an organization that helps homeless youth by providing them with supplies, housing, emotional support, and much more. From February 16th to the 27th, 8th grade service learning students will be collecting barely worn clothing, school supplies, box goods, and toiletries to donate to the Covenant House. All supplies can be dropped off in boxes found in any first floor middle school room.
All seniors come and attend the free FAFSA workshop and get expert advice about paying for college. The event will take place on Wednesday, March 4th at 5:30 p.m. until 7:30 p.m. Please see Ms. Brown for more information.
Yeah, get that FAFSA done. I bet you didn't know about this interesting fact.
Let's take a look.
On August 28, 1963, 250,000 people gathered in the nation's capital for the historic March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. The march rallied Americans to stand up against the continuing political and social injustices African Americans still faced 100 years after emancipation. The march took place at a critical moment in the civil rights movement. Tension and racial unrest had been building up throughout the year, with anti-segregation demonstrators making headlines in Alabama and President John F. Kennedy announcing his intention to pass civil rights legislation. The timing was right for a massive demonstration. Due to security concerns, internal marshals were trained to ensure order within the crowd. But as it turned out, the marchers chose peace, not violence, that sunny Wednesday. The event featured speeches from prominent leaders and musical performances by Josephine Baker, Joan Baez, Bob Dylan, Mahalia Jackson, and many others. The march is probably best remembered for Martin Luther King Jr.'s acclaimed "I Have a Dream" speech. But we bet you didn't know the real story behind those famous words. King was the last speaker that afternoon, but not because he chose to be. King only spoke last that day because no one else wanted to. When organizers of the march debated who would speak when and for how long, none of the other speakers wanted the last slot because they figured most of the news crews would head out by mid-afternoon. King agreed to go last and to limit his remarks to only 4 minutes. And he didn't have to worry about not making the news. The audience gladly stuck around for his 16-minute speech. And you might be surprised to learn that King hadn't even intended to talk about his now famous dream that day. During a pause in his prepared speech, Mahalia Jackson called out from behind the podium, "Tell him about the dream, Martin." She was referring to a theme King had touched on in a speech 2 months earlier in Detroit. Honoring her request, King departed from his prepared remarks and delivered the legendary speech we all remember today. Historians believe that the marches and King's speech were important catalysts in passing the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Today, a memorial marks the spot where Martin Luther King described his dream of a better America in one of the most influential and memorable speeches in American history.
Thank you for joining us with this week's edition of WCCS TV, Your News.
News.